My mother was from Georgia, and she made a sudden trip to California for some reason, and met my dad and married in 1932. And my dad was born in Kansas, Salina, Kansas, and they moved into Southern California. And my dad had to quit school in the 8th grade, after the 8th grade, to work with his father as a truck farmer in Southern California. Actually, their farm was in the Watts, what is now Watts area. Yeah. And then subsequent to that, they moved to San Jose. And the family in its entirety picked fruit during the fall and summer, and they were essentially itinerant fruit pickers. The whole family would go up into the mountains of Saratoga or near San Jose or Santa Cruz Mountains, and they'd camp out so they could pick fruit. The whole family would go out and do that. My father tells a story one time of having to take a cow back to, actually it was close to where you live, Mike. Ben Lomond. They used to camp out at Ben Lomond. And he led a cow from Ben Lomond back to San Jose with bare feet. I remember he telling me with bare feet. That's all I remember of, well, not all I remember, but my dad had a brother and 3 sisters. And I won't go into their details.
And how about your mom? What was she like? How would you describe your mom?
She was physically a small woman, very smart. She had gone to the University of, not the university, but the University of Georgia State College for Women. And she went 2 years, which was a 2-year college, and she became a secretary. It was a teacher's college primarily, but she became a secretary for, are you acquainted with the syrup, Cairo syrup? Well, it's from the town of Cairo, Georgia. And it was named after Mr. Cairo. And she worked for him as a secretary. And she also worked for a lawyer. And this is something now that she never talked about much, that she was engaged to a lawyer in Georgia. And probably 50 years after that, I now have a ring that was given to her by that lawyer as an engagement ring. And she never talked about it, never said a word to any of us about that. And
how did you find out about that?
She had given her wedding ring and that engagement ring to Mary Money.
Really?
Yeah. Mary was a favorite grandchild of hers. And she gave the 2 rings to Mary Money, and at Mary Money's my sister Nancy's funeral or memorial service, Mary was there, and she gave me the 2 rings, which was a surprise to me, and said these 2 rings were given to me by your mother, but I think it's more appropriate that you boys have them. So I gave my mother's wedding ring to Jim, and I now have the engagement ring. It's a big green thing. I don't know what kind of a stone it is. Yeah. So it just adds some mystery.
Yeah. That's
I don't know any of the other details.
How about, do you remember any of your grandparents at all?
My mother's father, of course, was from Georgia. He was a typical segregationalist. he was in his 80s when he came to California, and he, of course, no pension, no money, and he had to live on relatives, and so he lived with us, as if that little house didn't have enough people in it. The house that we lived in was measured 30 feet by 30 feet. And if you do the math, it's 900 square feet.
And how many bedrooms we were talking about?
1, 2, theoretically 3, but it was ridiculous.
One of them was like a sun porch or something almost.
Well, when my parents stayed, the bedroom was hardly big enough to get a double bed in, and you had to screech around it. And my bedroom was in the back. It was a converted porch, very roughly done. And when my sisters stayed, that was the biggest bedroom, but even that was hardly big enough to put a double bed in. You couldn't close the door. Couldn't close the door because of the bed. And my grandfather, I forget where in the hell he slept. I think he slept
in the living room.
I forget where in the hell he slept. But we used to play. I was recovering from polio, and when he was there, and he taught me to play backgammon. And the backgammon is on the back of a checkerboard. And I always wondered, playing checkers, what that was in the back of the checkerboard, but that's what it was. It's a backgammon board. And I used to have to go in, we'd be playing, and I'd have to go to the bathroom. I'd come back, and the whatever in hell you call those things, the men on the board would be different than when I left. Much more to my grandfather's advantage, and I'd accuse him of cheating, and he'd get all puffy. And he was a very tall man, skinny, with white hair and big white mustache, and he chewed tobacco. Not that sissy Copenhagen stuff, but he had every couple of months he'd send to Georgia for his tobacco, and it would come in a wooden box with a sliding top. And yeah, real tobacco. It was compressed. It was just a black rectangular hunk, and he had this little penknife that he would carve a piece out and put it in his mouth, and my mother and father didn't like that at all, especially my dad. And one day my grandfather was riding with my dad in the car, and he went to spit out the window and forgot the window was closed. And that was the story my father told on and on and on. Yeah, Grandpa Robinson was an interesting fellow. One time we were going somewhere on a bus, and we walked up to the bus stop, and close by to us was a naval hospital, Oak Knoll Naval Hospital. And there were, of course, quite a few Navy and Marine personnel on the bus, because that was the only service into downtown Oakland. And we got on the bus, and there was a black sailor sitting in the middle of the bus. And other than that, there was no one else on the bus. And we started to walk toward the back, and my grandfather spied this black sailor, and he stopped right in the middle, and he had these great big glaring eyes. He looked like an old Southern segregationist. It looked like who was the guy that was killed at the beginning, before the war started? Brown. John Brown's body moldering in the grave.
Right.
He looked like a John Brown. He looked like a fanatic, and big glaring eyes. So he pointed his finger at the black fellow and said, "Digger, move to the back of the bus." and the bus driver stopped the bus right in the middle of the between stops, and turned around and said, "Oh man, if you don't like the man sitting there, you can get off the bus. He can sit anywhere he wants." And my grandfather's, he said, "Boy, we're getting off the bus." And my grandfather was 82 years old or something, 81 or something, and he was feeble. And he shuffled around quite a bit when he walked. So we got off the bus. Now it was about, I don't know, 4 or 5 blocks away, and we had to walk back. My grandfather, you know, the old man, and me. Yeah, it was. I remember that that story. Yeah. My father's parents, we would visit them, but they were not very interesting people to me when I was a child.
Right.
My grandmother was rather cold. She was not affectionate at all. And she wasn't friendly. I guess she had too many grandchildren to keep track.
Didn't know who you were.
Yeah, didn't know who I was. So my grandfather used to, I remember, thump me on the head like that when I'd walk by. I hadn't seen it for a while.
Dad got that from.
Oh yeah, he had a rough sense of humor, and my dad got it from his father. And he thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
Did your dad do a lot of that stuff with you too?
Not a lot. Occasionally he'd loosen up and do it.
Right.
Occasionally. Yeah. So I don't remember a lot of. They lived. My grandparents, my father's side, lived with Aunt May and Uncle George, my father's sister, and her husband, who had no children.
Good morning.
Good morning. So that's it with my grandparents.
Okay. Have we missed anyone that you want to talk about?
Not relatives.
I think.
Well, when I was a kid growing up, I spent a lot of time up in the redwoods, up in Wyatt, and up in Northern California on Highway 101, right in the middle of the redwoods, the big redwoods. And my Uncle Dell, who was married to my father's sister, Margaret, had a service station that he had built. And one summer, I helped them when they were building a service station. And then thereafter, I worked at the service station. And I would work during the daytime, and then I'd close it up at night at 10 o'clock. And I would walk up the hill. It's hard to describe it. It was a very dark, extremely dark road with big redwoods to both sides. And I had just finished reading a book on a comic book that had a werewolf theme. And so I had werewolves in my mind, and walking up that road, you could literally see your hand in front of your face. It was that dark. And I'd have to look up and see a white patch and get under the white patch, and that would be the open spot above the road. And I'd sleep outside in a cot, and I was staying with my cousin, Uncle Dell, and my Aunt Margaret had a son, Lloyd Delahaye. And Lloyd was 18, 19, 20 years old and married to a lady by the name of Winifred. And so they were teenagers themselves, very, very young. And I stayed with them. I had some good summers there. I had some great summers.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice little vacation, especially since the house was probably kind of crowded it the rest of the time, right?
Exactly. Exactly. How come I keep holding this thing up to my ear like I'm talking into it. I'm not listening from it.
You're not going to hear much.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah. One summer when I was 17 years old, my friend John Ludicky and I decided to go to Yosemite, and we gathered our stuff together and rolled it up into the old-fashioned sleeping bag, where all the cotton, it was cotton, of course,
Right.
and it would all fall to the bottom of the bag,
Right.
and so we rolled everything up. We had canned goods, God damn it, canned goods and axe, and we had all kinds of things in it. We just roll it up to a big lump and tie ropes around it. And John's dad dumped us off on Highway 50, which is now 580, over in Oakland, or San Leandro of Hayward. And we hitchhiked. I had a sign made up that hung around my neck going to Yosemite. And looking back on it now, a car speeding by couldn't read the thing. Of course, it was much too small.
Did anybody pick you up?
Yeah, we hitchhiked and arrived there in good shape. And the next day, John said, "What about climbing this hill over here? I understand some rangers did it yesterday and they set a record. And the name of the hill was Half Go."
Did you do it?
Yeah, we took off without any water, any provisions of any kind, and we hiked up to Half Dome, and that was back in 1951. And we hiked all the way to the top. We were the only people up there. There was a squirrel up on the rock. I remember sitting on the rock that dangles out over the edge. We were sitting on the rock, a little squirrel came up, we took it. And John had an old Kodak that he took some pictures of it. We had a great time, but while I was up there, I got a call. I remember we were down in the campground, and the guy came through and said, "Is there a Russell Burt Peck?" Russell Burt Peck. I said, "Yeah." And I was worried, that something terrible had happened. It was my mother. She said, "Your cousin Ruth Richmond, who lives in New Hampshire, she wanted to know if you'd like to come out and work, spend time with them and work on the chicken farm this summer." So I said, "Hell yes, that's great." So we went home, hitchhiked home again, and I went on the Greyhound bus. Took 5 days. Went back on the Greyhound bus to New Hampshire and spent the summer on the chicken farm. And here I am listening to it again. That was a great summer. I enjoyed it very much. It became, of course, very friendly with Herb and Ruth. Ruth just passed away a few months ago.
That was your cousin?
My cousin, on my mother's side, yes.
Right.
And Herb is still alive. Interestingly enough, he was a pilot, a Navy pilot during the Second War, and he became an instructor in Pensacola. And one of his students, as it turns out, was former President Bush.
Really?
Remember, George Bush was shot down in an airplane, had a parachute, and then thereafter, on his birthday, he would parachute. So he was, I guess, in his 80s or so.
Oh, wow.
But my cousin taught him one stage of his flying career. So that was a good summer. That was a great summer.
Were you at Fort Lewis at some point?
Yes, yes, I was in ROTC at Stanford, and one of the requirements, of course, is a summer camp, and I did the summer camp at Fort Lewis, Washington.
Right.
That was
how was that?
It was not a good experience.
No?
No,
Did you run into any generals there? Or anything?
No, but there is one funny story. I was on KP duty. We had to, of course, do all these different things. I was on KP duty. And I was tired and miserable and hot and sweaty, and the rest of the group were out doing something, maneuvering or whatever, and I was in camp. It was hot, and it was toward the end of the day, and mosquitoes developed about twilight. So I put this military insect repellent on me. It's very powerful stuff. All over, it was on my hands and so forth. So then I had to take a pee. And before I did that, I grabbed the water can and took it over, and I was filling the water can from the back of one of these water trailers that had spigots in the back, and you'd open them up and fill the can. So while the can was filling up, I went over the bushes and relieved myself, and at the time kind of played around a little bit, and so I came back, and all of a sudden I started to burn. And my God, oh my, what was happening? And it was just terrible. It was the insect repellent. And it was just burning like crazy. And so here this nice cold water was gushing out of the trailer, and all I could think about was making myself feel better. So I took the can, moved it aside, and moved up and just stood there and let the cold water gush all over me to relieve the burning. And just as I was sighing a sigh of relief, I looked around, and here this full bird colonel walked around the corner. And I think he'd been in a couple of wars or something. And here this soldier, we had no insignia on, even though it's an officer's thing, we had no insignia on. And he just took one look and kept walking.
Did you salute?
Oh yeah, I did. I had, what else could I? had my penis in one hand and saluted with the other hand.
And he had a glass jar, like a jam jar, and he picked it up, and that was his magnifying lens. I'm not kidding you. And he's like looking all over me and checking things out. And it's almost ludicrous to think about, but it was not funny. He's looking around, and he confirmed what the Navajo woman had said, that I had Ba'ali and that I needed to get it out in order to feel better. So this is all very serious, and then they get the little stove ready. There's a lot of cedar cleansing, a lot of chanting. And then he asked me to take my shirt off. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm sitting there in my bra, and he leans over to me, and he puts his mouth, not on my breast, but above on the muscle right here, and sucks to get it out. And let's just tell you that after I had the experience and I was back, I had no bruises at all, but I felt like I had been slammed with a baseball bat. I couldn't even wear a shirt on it. It was that tender, just from his mouth. And if you get your mouth, you can't do that to yourself. But I was so sore, and so he sucked and then pulled his mouth and then spit something out. And one of my friends was a teacher that I was living with. She was really interested in the thing. So she's trying to get the thing, and I'm just waiting for what he's going to do next, And then he leans over and comes to the other side. So he did it on two different sides. And so anyway, so he goes to the other side and he sucks and he spits out. And then he got so violently ill. He was like, I was worried about him. He was just sick. He just went, and kind of like in an old Navajo sort of way, went out of the hogan and retched for like 5 full minutes. Bad retch, just this terrible sound. Meanwhile, these little things, I saw them there were things that were on the paper towel. They were, they looked like little white seed pods, seed pods. They kind of had little thorns on them. They looked really, really soft. There were a few. And the Navajos would not let us touch them or investigate them or take them. They put them all because they were bad. This was the ba'ali. So they put it in the stove and burned it. So we never did get to touch them. My friend Jean was very upset about that. She was really wanted to take him to a medical lab right away and get it checked out. And so meanwhile, I'm just up, you know, waiting for the next, now where's the peyote, where's the next, can I put my shirt on? And so I did get to put my shirt on, and then a lot of the rest, that was the only ceremony part. The rest was a lot of cedar, smoke, and chanting, and lecture. My body does not handle, according to him, shellfish. I can't digest shellfish, it's very bad for me. And that's what I was holding, and that's what was causing my asthma. And so eventually, I think we were in there probably an hour more, and I was just kind of, you know, I wasn't feeling well either. You know, it wasn't like I instantly felt better. But then they kind of closed it off, and I had to go back the opposite way around the hogan and shake everybody's hand and make my way out. And I paid him, I think I paid him like $100, which for them was a lot of money. And that was it. That was
Russ, you want to announce to the troops that we're ready?
Yeah, but see, I'd been to the emergency room and I was also on medicine. And, you know, I don't know.
Out there.
I mean, it was an amazing experience. I have no idea. It didn't cure my asthma because I still have it to this day.
But amazing enough that still today you don't eat seafood,
I don't smoke pot. I haven't eaten a bite of crab, a bite of shrimp, a bite of lobster. And when you're in the middle of a Navajo hogan and some guy tells you you're not supposed to eat that, I took it to heart. So that's why I'm not. So I just tell people. Because I live in the Northwest. You want some shrimp? I said, no, I just tell them I'm allergic to it. Yeah.
That was Andrew. My name is Annika Vodder, and I'm Kim's daughter, Kim Peck's daughter, who is Russ's daughter, and Russ and Sue's daughter. And my dad is Vince, and my sister is Natalie. And I'm 21, and I'll be going into my 4th and last year at at UC Santa Barbara, and I'm majoring in aquatic biology. So.
And you grew up kind of in Washington and San Diego, I understand. Is that right?
Yes, I was born. Sorry, I was born in Vancouver, Washington, and then we moved up to the Seattle area in Sammamish, and then we moved when I was 12 to Hawaii, which is just north of San Diego. And then we're actually on this trip just after we leave Lynn Point. We'll be going up and visiting family friends in Sammamish again. So that'll be really fun. But
you miss Washington?
Yeah, when we lived up here, we used to come here quite a lot, and it's always been really, really fun. And then when I graduated high school, I actually came here with some friends. We stayed here for about a week, and it was fantastic. And we were really happy to be able to use the house. But it's great.
You probably have a lot of memories of this place.
Yes, lots of climbing memories, lots of getting dirty memories. They're great.
I have children, 4 children. Melanie, the oldest, David, Kimberly, and Kristen, the youngest.
Tell me a few words. Describe each of them briefly. And if you have a story about it.
Melody's a school teacher in upstate Washington. And she is divorced. She lives now by herself. Her 2 kids are away from home. David lives in Los Altos, Santa Cruz Mountains. in a quite remote place. He has 2 boys, Sawyer and Andrew. Very active young boys. Married to Ann.
So I guess you guys have done this before?
Kimberly lives in San Diego with Vince, her husband. They have 2 girls.
We've been around. We didn't have a dishwasher for a while. Oh, really?
And,
yeah, back in the old days. Dave, when we moved in the house in
Natalie.
1997.
And
We didn't have a dishwasher in the house for
excuse me,
what?
Natalie goes to UCLA. Annika
We got
goes
some
to
kind of primitive roller
University
dishwasher that you had to hook up
California,
when every time you did this, you had to hook it up.
Santa Barbara.
You know, unhook it. And you ever seen
And,
one of these? It's an old fashioned.
At least
Over the
Kristen.
years, we learned to do some
And
dishes.
Kristen has 2
So
children.
now we have dishwashing
They're younger.
machine in our house, so we can put them in there in the dishwashing machine.
Sophia,
wash dishes
who is, I
automatically
believe,
using hot water and
11 years old.
It's a system.
And
And that's what we do now.
she's very active. She's quite a good swimmer. And
I just explained to him.
very nice young lady.
He can tell you.
They're all.
It's a hell of a story. They're here for both.
Her son, Dan,
It's a hell of a
who
story.
is about 8 years old, 8 or 9 years old. He's quite a good baseball player. And those are my children. Oh, and
He's a good pitcher, I've seen.
Dasha, my stepdaughter, who of course was born in Russia. Her husband is French, David, which is David with different pronunciation, D-A-V-I-D. They live in Hayward, California. They have 2 small children, a girl, Elena, who is 5, and a young, very active boy, Alexander.
Sounds like they're becoming kind of trilingual too, those 2 kids, right?
Yes, Dasha, of course, speaks Russian, and she does speak French and German. She's quite fluent in German also, and very fluent in English. But with the kids, she speaks nothing but Russian. Her husband, David, the Frenchman, of course, he does not speak Russian, he speaks French to the children. And between David and Dasha, they speak English. Kristen? Yeah. Oh, she's a great gal. Well, I don't mean to single her out. She is a great mother, a wonderful wife. She's very calm, she's very capable. She's quite a good singer. She sings in the choir. The choir is, I guess you'd almost say professional choir. They have a professional leader. They pay actually to join this group to be able to sing. There are about 50 women, it's a women's choir, 50 women who sing in the choir, and they actually pay to be able to do that. Kim is a lawyer, a very good lawyer, I might add. She's in estate planning and trust and wills and estate planning in general. She works for a law firm in San Diego where they live. She is becoming more and more involved in the practice of law, and I think she, from what I understand, she's highly regarded. I'm very proud of her. David, of course, who lives in Santa Cruz Mountains, is a contractor. He doesn't work for my company. He's on his own. He does smaller work, remodeling houses and decks and whatever. He doesn't have a steady crew. He has a different number of people working for him at different times. Mm-hmm. And who does that leave?
Melanie.
Melanie is a school teacher in upstate Washington. Her kids, again, are Elena, her daughter, is in college.
What's Melanie like? How would you describe her?
Melanie is our tough gal. is very physically strong. She has a share of health problems, like asthma and so forth. She goes through those. She hikes a lot, she swims a lot. Melanie's about 54, 55 years old, and in good shape. She's very strong, very capable, and she teaches school, teaches Spanish, teaches soccer, girls soccer, and I think aside she speaks Spanish fluently. She's very capable woman.
So the night before my wedding, I ended up sleeping with my mother-in-law.
Really?
In my underwear, by the way.
Oh, tell us about that story.
We were having a rehearsal party.
Yeah.
Which I believe you were there, by the way.
Was I?
Yes.
Maybe.
Brian Deck, I think you were there.
Okay. Oh, I was there.
You were there.
I do remember that. Yeah.
And I was having a good time, and I drank a little too much. And it was very late at night, and I was very tired, and I couldn't drive. So I ended up staying at Suzanne's house. And I was not the only one who was going to stay there. There were another 20 people staying at the house. There was no room for me to sleep. And I needed my beauty sleep for my wedding the next day. So I walked in Suzanne's room and I asked her if I could sleep with her. And she, sure enough, opened up the blanket for me and off I went. So we snuggled up.
I was there too.
For not very long. Chris was there between us, and we started snoring away. And she had it.
That is a great story.
So that's how I broke the ice with Suzanne.
You've been quite close since then.
And I actually went to the rest of the house to look for a place to sleep. And every surface was covered with a sibling or a niece or a nephew. And my mom woke up to go to the bathroom and she realized she was alone with them. She was like, what is going on here?
That's what I call true love.
So your mother-in-law accepted you in the family right away.
She sure did. She didn't have a choice. I broke her in quickly.
Nice. And describe her. What's she like? How would you describe Sue?
I am not a philosophy guy.
Yeah.
What can I say about Suzanne? Hold on a second. Hold on. Pause it for a second.
I've got it paused.
Okay, pause it. Because I gotta think about it. I mean, okay, pause it. Just pause it.
Okay.
What can I say about Suzanne? That's a tough one. It's like describing your mom, right?
Yeah, similar. It's difficult. Yeah. There's probably almost too much to describe, right?
But I want to characterize it in a way that, anyways, she's everything. That's it.
All right. Is she like Kristen in some ways? Do you see?
No, she's different.
Much different?
Ross and Kristen are more similar in character than Suzanne.
Oh, really? And so maybe that brings me to what's Russ like?
Okay, so Russ is like a Rottweiler. He bites and he doesn't let go.
Oh, is that like Kristen?
She's like that too. His stubbornness, his persistent, these are all good qualities, by the way. Is about knowing what you want and making sure that you get what you want, and having a clear path and clear view about things. And the stubbornness that they have, I think, is really an outstanding characteristic of them.
How are you doing,
But, you know, she's my wife, he's my father-in-law, and he's absolutely somebody I admire. I look forward to seeing him, and I look forward to be with him, and I look forward, you know, he's my idol, you know, I just think highly of him. And there are very few people that I look up to as much as I do to him.
Great.
So he's the man.
How about your wife? Tell me about Kristen. How would you?
She's the love of my life.
I think hey, Kristen, are we going to have coffee by
And
what time?
will continue to be the case.
In the morning.
For as long as I can help it.
How about your?
No, I said what time?
How about your own parents?
Big Daddy knows asking.
So they are, my mom is 80 years old, and 78, going and having dementia.
Are you in charge of the coffee?
So she's sleeping.
Is she?
Yeah.
How was
I don't mind
she?
making coffee at
Well,
all.
when she was younger.
You know, I relate to. My mother was very. She was very trusting to the things I did, and very gave me a lot of security in my life and gave me a lot of comfort. She was a great mother. She was the reason why I'm who I am today in many ways. It's a stepfather I have now. My father died when I was 15. But my stepfather is 96 years old. He works 6 days out of 7 days a week.
Wow. Okay.
And he's a lawyer, he's an accountant, and he's an animal. And the day he stops working, he's gonna die. It's pretty impressive. He's a really interesting character.
That's great. And how about your two kids? How would you describe each of them?
Sophia is very sweet, very adhering to me.
Exactly. Would you like cream?
Very socially intuitive.
And what time?
And Ben is very intellectual, very smart, and they're perfect. I can ask for better kids.
And Ben is funny too.
And his humor, he's got humor. He's sensitive, and they're both good kids. That's what I live for. That's all I live for.
I'm Suzanne Miller Peck. I don't even have a middle name.
Did you ever have a middle name?
Never.
Oh,
My
well, it's good
parents
you got one.
didn't give me one because they felt the name Suzanne was long enough. I
So
guess they thought I wouldn't be able to spell a middle name. Maybe, I don't know.
maybe Zan is your middle name.
Maybe
Suzanne.
And I married Russ Peck in 1958 in Karlsruhe, Germany.
That's good. Probably not as hot.
And that's how I'm connected to this tribe.
And tell me about, tell me about your children.
Okay, I have 4 children. We had 4 children.
Right.
And we still have 4 children. The oldest is Melanie. And David is the second, and 18 months later, and Kim is the third, 18 months later, and then there was Chris, 7 years later. And that
There was an 18-month thing going for a while.
Yeah, and that was a happy little surprise, that fourth one.
Yeah.
So,
Could you tell me a little bit about, start with Chris. How would you describe her as a person?
Kristen is the youngest and had learned from the other 3, so she, I would say, has gained great benefits from that learning experience. She knew what to do and what not to do by watching and observing.
Did it help for you too, having gone through 3 for the?
Very much. I totally enjoyed. The shoes didn't get polished, the dishes didn't get done. I just enjoyed Chris as a baby, and I look forward to waking up in the night when she needed to be fed and sitting in the living room in a rocking chair, and just it was a joy. As compared to the busyness of the other 3. One toppled over another, and kind of like Jennifer's dealing with right now, Jennifer Peck.
And personality-wise, how would you describe Kristen?
Easygoing, cheerful, very aware and conscious of others. Lots of fun to be around and very social. She married a guy that fits the bill. They are 2 of a kind in many ways, not in all ways. And I think they have a very successful, happy marriage with 2 children. Ben and Sophia, 11 and 9, who are a joy in my life because they only live an hour and 15 minutes away, and I can spend time over there, and I do fairly often, and I'm always welcome. So it's a pleasure.
Tell me just a bit about Sophia and about Ben.
Sophia is one of the sweetest children I've ever known. She is very conscious and aware of others.
Oh, yeah.
And just won an award in school this year for that part of her personality. The award was set up for a little boy who had cancer, and he had a very giving, wonderful personality, and they created this award from this little boy. 3 days before he passed away, he came to school and ran around the field with the class so they would win some kind of an award. And so since then they created an award every year for a child who fits this personality, and Sophia won it this year.
Wow.
That's quite an award to win.
That is. That's one of the best awards I can imagine.
And then Mr. Ben and Sophia's a great little swimmer, and just loves babies, little kids, and she loves her little brother Ben, who's 9, and he's a very busy little guy. He loves baseball, and he's a very good pitcher with a hard swing and accurate. So
I saw him playing out there. He is good.
He is good. And he's a swimmer, and he's a soccer player, and he's a computer guy. Boy, does he love his technology. And he's a good game player, too. Plus, he won an award at school for a wonderful accommodation in the same vein that Sophia won from his teacher. So, a compliment. So that's, and the Torres family has lots of wonderful family from Puerto Rico through Luis's side, and it's always fun to go there and visit and enjoy that family too. They're very warm and loving and giving and fun.
Nice. So tell me about Kim, your daughter Kim.
Well, they can fit while the cars.
Kimberly is balanced right brain, left brain.
Yeah, we can take all of you guys.
Became a lawyer, but she's very creative. So she's also a creative lawyer. She finds new solutions to problems at work. She is a determined, focused, very kind person who has been a wonderful mother, and the whole time she was growing up, I mean, she was having children. She stayed home with her children, and then went on to practice law with a law firm after they were grown. And then, let's see, Kimmy lives in San Diego with Vince, and they're down there. They have lived in Washington State and San Diego. And they live down there because Vince's parents are older now and need some help, so they have moved down there, and they are very helpful with his parents.
Do their children still live with them, or are they in school now?
Both girls, they have 2 girls. Annika, who's going to be a senior at UC Santa Barbara and into marine biology, and she's a very good student and has a research kind of mind. We'll see what happens with that. And then Natalie is at UCLA and will be going into her sophomore year. She doesn't know what she wants to do yet, but she's good with languads, science. They're both very good students, and they're lots of fun to be around. I have the pleasure of having had them with me for a while in the summer, so I get to know them.
Right. And how about David?
Mr. David is a builder.
See you later.
David has a very athletic body. Actually, Kim does too. And she's a great tennis player. I forgot to say that. David has built houses. In fact, this house we're sitting in right now, he built for his dad. He has built several other houses. The one he lives in, one near where he lives that he rents now. He's a really good daddy. He loves his family dearly. He likes the outdoors, so they live in the Santa Cruz Mountains in the woods, having chopped down the trees in order to put the house there. He's helps the kids with their teams. He's sometimes a coach, but he's helpful with their sports. And they live in kind of a remote area, so they have a lot of trekking to do with the boys.
What are his boys' names?
Sawyer and Andrew. And Sawyer is, I think, will be 13 or is 13 in September. Andrew is 11. No, I think Sawyer will be 14 in September. And freshman in high school. Grandma doesn't know exactly. I forget. And then Andrew is same age as Sophia, 11. Those boys are rambunctious, normal, care about boys enjoying life in the country, and they have a bunch of chickens, and they have dogs, and they have cats, and they have wildcats in the area, and rattlesnakes in the area. Very big rattlesnake a couple weeks ago, right down on their property, with 11 rattles.
Making those pancakes. That's why they're so delicious. Did you taste the love?
And Mommy Ann is an English teacher in high school in the vicinity, in the Los Gatos area, I think. Los Gatos or Cupertino. She has a group of gifted students. She works with the journalistic group at school. She's won awards for their journalism in the state of California.
Oh.
Anne looks like
Deer says,
I guess it's Venus coming out of the conch shell painting. She has gorgeous curly hair, and she's beautiful. And she is a great storyteller. She really knows how to tell a good story.
maybe that's
right.
And they are a wonderful family, and it's fun to be there. I don't go down unless I'm going to stay overnight because I don't like to drive the road out at the night. So I go down and hang out with them, and we always have a good time.
Nice. And how about Melanie?
Melanie is the oldest and has two children. Melanie's a school teacher in Lacana, Washington, way up in the Northwest. She teaches Spanish, and she teaches the kids who fall through the cracks. She helps with the American Indian kids. She does all kinds of things for the school that other people don't even notice. She started an environmental pick up the garbage kind of thing. She's very creative with her interests. And doesn't push them, she just promotes them and creates them. She took Spanish in high school and then became proficient in it by living with a family in Mexico for a quarter when she was in college. In, I forgot, Mohican area. And she's done that for years. She's also a forest ranger. She had two jobs most of her life. She's now working summertime as a forest ranger in the office. Because she's hiked all the trails, she's able to guide people into the areas and explain to them how they are and what they're like and whether it's snowy or whatever. And so she's divorced when Galena was she had two children, Finley and Galena. Her oldest, Finley, is 22 now, and he's working. He works for an oyster farm up in the Northwest, which is hard work.
You want a banana, Sammy?
He's making money. That's what he wants to do right now. He says he didn't want to do this his whole life, but at this point, that's what he's doing. And he's 6'2", and his daddy's 6'4". He's a big guy and good-looking guy with a big beard. And then Galena, his sister, will be going into her third year at Lewis and Clark in Oregon, Portland, Oregon, and is a runner on her own. She is studying Spanish and media. I don't know what they term it now, but like what you're holding and you know all this kind of technology stuff, which I think is a good combination with Spanish. She doesn't know for sure what direction she's going in, other than next year she's going to Chile as an exchange student for a semester.
What's she doing this summer?
And this summer she's picking up a biology class at Foothill College and living with her grandma, me, and we're having lots of fun with that. And she wants to be in the Peace Corps in the future. So those are her goals for now. And then Melanie and Oscar are divorced, and Oscar. But the kids have lived with both parents throughout their lives, so they're both supportive of the children. Grandpa Peck used to chop walnuts.
That's what I remember.
And when he'd come over, he wanted something to do, so we would always give him a bowl of walnuts and a nut chopper. And he would sit there and chop away. He was...
While he talked to you?
Oh, yeah.
That's what he would do with my mom. He would talk and crack walnuts.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I figured you
chop. I didn't crack.
against the current.
And he was always very kind to me. and thoughtful. Sometimes he'd bring little plants over, which I thought was very nice. He was a little rough sometimes. I think, I know that he, in his childhood, he had to go to work for his own family and therefore only finished 8th grade. And he was a smart man, but he didn't get a chance to go through teenage years like lots of kids, boys do. So I think it was a rough time for his boys going through their teenage years with a dad who never experienced that and didn't really know how to treat them at that stage, which is the growing up and out stage. So it was a little rough for them. He was a mailman and very religious to his job. He did a good job. And he loved to plant things and grow things, and especially flowers and begonias. He was a begonia lover. So Grandma Peck was a complicated lady from the South, and when I first met her, all she cared about was her son. She totally ignored me, which didn't make me feel very good. And so, for years, well, what I remember is she's kind of messy in her home. So when she cooked so much food that you couldn't even eat it all. So lots of times, her grandpa would take over with the cooking, because I think she wasn't an organized person as far as material things go, but I think she had a very organized mind. She was very bright, and I don't know a lot about her background, but except that she's from the South, and I spent years trying to get to know her better. And it paid off, because when she was older, she began to share with me, I think, things that she never even shared with her own daughters. And our relationship grew into something really worthwhile. So I appreciated that. I think she did too. She was a game player, Scrabble. She did a little trick with it.
I heard she liked to win.
She liked to win, but she would get to that point and be ready to win, and then let me win, which blew me away. I didn't like that. Anyway, that's my memories. She had a gracious way about her. In being around people. She was kind. They were both very kind. My parents, my dad was a banker. My mom worked different jobs throughout her life, mainly for the TB Association. They were very loving. There were 3 of us. I have 2 brothers. And I love my parents dearly. They were great example for any kid to grow up under. I was a very lucky, happy childhood. And I didn't leave home until college. I enjoyed every minute of it.
My name's Natalie Vaughter. My mom is Kim Peck Vaughter, and she's Grandma Susie and Grandpa Russ's 3rd daughter. And then she married my dad, Vince Vaughter. And then I have an older sister, Annika, and then me.
And tell me about your parents. How would you describe them?
They're both really outdoorsy, active people. They love doing home improvement projects, so they're constantly like, they'll get up at 6 in the morning on Saturdays, and they'll be like up drinking their coffee, talking about like how to redo the kitchen, or like they're really into landscaping, and they're really sweet parents, and I'm really lucky to have them.
Where do they live now?
We live in San Diego.
How do you like that?
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to live in Seattle. My parents moved up there like after they got married, and we lived there until I was about 10, and then we moved down to San Diego.
Do you miss Washington too? Did you
Yeah,
like it there?
we loved Washington.
Right.
We liked the rain. My sister and I love the rain.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, we used to come here a lot.
You're not getting a lot of that in San Diego, right?
Nope.
And are you going to school?
Yeah, I go to UCLA. I just finished my first year there.
Oh, how do you like UCLA?
I really like it.
Right. And can you tell me something about your grandfather and your grandmother?
They're both just wonderful grandparents, and it's been really nice to be able to spend time with Grandpa over the years. We've gotten to come up to Lynn Point a lot, actually, because when we used to live in Seattle, he would always be up here, and we would come down and have like Thanksgivings with him there, and just have a lot of good memories of that. And then it's always really fun to spend time with Grandma Susie, because she's the best grandma, and she's awesome.
What sort of things do you like to do with her?
She takes us to pottery classes sometimes, or like just to art fairs or out to eat, just like fun stuff.
All right. Nice. And so have you been to Lynn Point recently, or is this the first time in a while?
It's the first time since I was like, I want to say 9 or 10, since we moved.
Really? So what's this been like the last few days?
It's been really nice. It's like very nostalgic to be back, and like everything looks the same, except for like this rock wall over here. I thought it was this huge like mountain when I was little, because we would climb up it. It was this epic journey, right? And yeah, now I'm like, what? It's only that size.
Yeah.
But it's been really nice to be back.
Well, my kids, 11 and 13, are driving us crazy. They're both sportsaholics in some realm, and of course videoaholics also. And we're at 2013, so hopefully we can curb that before they get into their college years. But they're healthy and happy, hopefully, and we're looking forward to having them get through the next year. We were young when we knew Grandma, and our memories are that she was a sweet, short lady with a lot of love, and having to deal with Grandpa, we knew she was pretty tough. Grandpa was always tough on everybody in some way or another, and we miss her. We were all figuring out when she passed, which was 71, I believe. I was 11, and I still remember that day that I heard about that, which was affected me, and she was definitely an asset to our family. Once we lost her, it was a sad day. She was just so cute and kind of brought all the kids together. She just would bless your little heart, as she would say, and but I think Grandpa missed her quite a lot, honestly. Melanie, Kim, and Chris, they're all...
say something about each of them.
We're all very close. We all live in different states for the most part. Almost.
Describe Melanie, or start with anyone.
Yeah, Melanie, she's a tenacious teacher, Spanish teacher in Washington, and I've always respected her in many levels. In that she actually was the instigator for me to become a recycler, and which in my business construction, I have a huge impact on recycling in a small way, in that I could really abuse the earth and not abuse the earth, and she taught me so much about how not to walk by a piece of garbage and resent people who threw garbage on the ground, as opposed to just shut up and pick it up. And don't resent, and maybe they'll watch you pick it up and learn from that. So I'll always be thankful for that lesson she gave me, and we brought that to our kids, and my wife and I live that way, and so I really appreciate many things that Melanie brought to the table for me as a young man and now an adult. The way she works with animals, counting bald eagles, and nurturing all the flora and fauna in the Skagit Valley. I used to go and watch her count the bald eagles up the Skagit Valley and learned so much from that, and all of her stories, true and false. She would always embellish a story, as most Pecks do, to make it a little bit better. And I always liked that too. She would always admit it later, but never during the story. And also, I respect her very much for her work with migrant workers and teaching Spanish to non-speaking English people that were mostly migrant workers, and then she settled as a teacher and then became a Spanish teacher. And not only did she live in Mexico, she lived in Montana, Missoula, Montana, and Flagstaff, Arizona. She was always doing things very few women did, let alone men. Go camp by herself at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. You know, I was always, I had a lot of respect for Melanie.
That's good.
And my younger sister by a year and a half is Kim Vaughter, and she's a lawyer, and she's a very smart, picky, wonderful girl. Teasing. And I love her very much too. She has two beautiful daughters that my wife and I have always tried to get our kids to be like, even though we have two boys and she has two girls. But we always, being my younger sister, having kids so incredible, it really gives us a big help to raise our kids. We just always like to get them around the girls, and that helps us
Good
parents. But yeah, she has a very neat husband, Vince, who we love dearly, and is really a neat asset to me because I don't have any brothers to chat with and talk about the women folk in the family, but Vince and I, we can chat and beat them all up and then get back to it without any problems. So, and he's quite the athlete himself, bike rider, used to ride motorcycles. He's an amazing skier. I've skied with him many, many, many times and always tried to keep up with him. Maybe one day I did, but really can't do that at all anymore. And I'm just thankful to have such a neat younger sister who I respect quite a lot. And then I have a youngest sister, Kristen Peck, Torres, sorry, and she has two beautiful kids, and married to Luis Torres, and really very tender, sensitive, caring person that pretty much gels our family together. Melanie's strong personality, me, whatever I am, Kim, a strong personality, and somehow she gets with us and gels us together, and I think probably will always keep us all together very well. So besides being a teacher herself and a great parent and wonderful sister, she just brings a lot to the table for our family, and we just care so much for her too. She's the baby, so we kind of have to coddle her a little bit, but I think by the end she'll be coddling us. Well, Sue Peck, my mom is 80 this year. It's 2013, so she's in a new threshold of her life. She's active, busy. She's always poking and prying into everybody's business, which we love sometimes, except when she talks about it.
We didn't really mean
She travels. She certainly has always gelled our family together. Puts up with everybody, all of the personalities and things we go through. She's always been a very, very wonderful mom for me. Kept my perspective very balanced and always supported me in almost any crazy thing that I've done. and that's helped me keep a lot of confidence and passion for life. So I could talk a long time about her, but for the most part, that's what the main things that Mom has brought to my life for sure. Yeah, well, Grandpa Russ, Dad, Bert, Poophead.
Oh, even Bert in there.
Oh, yeah,
and even Poophead.
Poophead, you bet. He's 80 this year also, and having some trouble getting around since he's been through hell and back physically from all the things that he's struggled with throughout his life, and polio and all. And as I get older, I understand my father so much more. His tenacity, his trials and tribulations and anger have now. I understand why he was so hard on all of us because of his hard life, and I really, as we get older, I really respect the fact that he's stuck with the family. He's kept the family core together, and he never stops improving. Not only did he have heart surgery a couple of years ago, and now is, shining through that. He just, every time it seems like Dad's not going to do well, he surprises me and changes, and is just very powerful person. I'm happy to have a father so strong.
Good. Well, I'm Galena Graham. I'm Galena Graham.
Yeah, very nice.
Testing. My name is Galena Graham. I'm 20 years old, and I am the daughter of Melanie Graham, who is Russ's daughter. Yes, that's how that goes. And yeah, my mom. Well, I love my mom so much. I don't know. I think that a word to describe her would be just completely determined. I think she's just a big ball of determination and would do anything. Like she's just a fighter, and she'll pick a great cause and go all the way for it and not stop until she gets there, which is something that I want to do. I mean, want to follow. I don't know. I'm getting awkward now, but
you're doing it.
But yeah, she's just a really, really good person to have in my life, because she just leads by example every day. She just takes it in her own hands, doesn't leave it up to anyone else, and goes from there.
And tell me about your grandparents. Tell me about Russ, and tell me about Susan.
Okay, so Grandpa Russ is he's funny. I don't feel like I know him as well as I know Susie, but what I do, I know that he's a funny guy, and he cares a lot, and he's a little hard-headed sometimes, but it's all, there's good underneath it all. And I remember his cat named Bitch. I remember that. As for Susie, I'm living with her this summer, and she is just transformed. Not only, she's not only my grandma anymore, but she's just my really, really good friend, and I'm having such a good time just cooking with her and talking with her and learning from her, and hopefully, providing some, or filling the role of some relationship that she doesn't have in her life right now. I am that role, yeah. So, those are my G parents. Okay, my brother. I'm so disappointed that he couldn't be here this weekend, because I'm going into my third year of college next year, and so I don't get to see him very often. And I'm living in California this summer, which is obviously not Washington, and so I don't get to spend much time with him. But anyways, he's the couple weeks before I came to California, we were hanging out nonstop, and I just felt honestly like I was hanging out with myself, with just like another, like I could be completely me and just say whatever I wanted to say, and he would do the same, and we just laughed at each other's jokes, or you know, slapped each other for a stupid joke, and he's easy to get along with. He's funny, he's really smart, and he provides insight that not many other people do. He's pretty wise overall, but maybe not for his own life, if that makes any sense. Yeah, that's my brother Finn. And my cousins, I mean, I see them whenever I come down to California, and well, sometimes, you know, I usually just see Susie and my grandpa when I come down, but or just Susie, but yeah, it's really been nice to be a part of my family. And Annika and Natalie, my cousins that are closer in age to me, this is the first time I've seen them in about 6 years, and it's so nice to see them again. It's cool how even though it's been so long, we kind of just pick up right where we left off. It's easy to get along. It's fun. It's not awkward. It's just catching up and laughing and having a good time.
You probably saw them a lot when they lived up in Washington, right?
No, not even much then. It's like I think we kind of take family for granted sometimes, and then but yeah. So even though they were so close, we saw them sometimes, but not much. You know, everybody just goes about their own lives, and you just kind of get set on these routines. But it's important to kind of bring in family and friends and remember and appreciate the people you have when you have them.
So what's it been like this past couple of days?
It's been really nice, kind of overwhelming at times, just because there's so many people that you want to talk to, you want to get to know. They're people, they're your family, they're people that you kind of feel like you should know about and you want to know about, but there's just so many to get around to. But it's been really, really a good time, and I'm glad that I could make it and meet all of you. And yes. Okay, thank you.
I'm Kristen Peck, the youngest daughter of Russ Peck. I'm married to Luis Torres, so my name is Kristen Peck Torres. Luis and I met in college at the University of Colorado, Boulder, and we met when we were 19 years old. We were babies, and we've been married for a long time, 15 years, I think.
Get that right.
Yeah, but we got married 10 years after we met. So, no, Luis is fabulous. He's a wonderful father and my soulmate, and we've known each other for a long time, and I feel like we've grown up together. And he fits into this family very well, although he's very different in many ways. He's a Puerto Rican, which means he comes, he has a whole different culture, but he just fits right in. My mom, what can I say about my mom? My world doesn't exist without my mom. If something happens to me, I feel like it doesn't happen until I tell my mom about it. Like when I got engaged to Luis, I remembered I was dying to tell her, but we promised that we wouldn't tell until the next day when we flew home from Boston to California. And I felt like we weren't engaged until the moment I told my mom. I don't know, that's how it is. She's the person on the plane that you meet and you tell your whole life story to, but you're not exactly sure why. She's just an amazing listener. She doesn't judge. She's just there for me and lets me live my life and be who I am. And she supports me and loves me no matter what. What more could you ask for?
And how about your dad? Tell me about Russ.
My dad, you know, it's interesting. I got to know my dad really well this past year because he just turned 80 this year, and I made a book for him, and it's called Letters to Dad, and it's about each one of us in our family wrote letters to our father. And I got to know my dad through my siblings in a very special way. You know, when I was about 11, my dad left, so I had a childhood sort of innocent relationship with him, and then it changed as I grew up, and we were. He moved out of the house, and it became an adult relationship, and I've loved that. I feel that I can be very honest with my dad. I always feel that my dad is very proud of me and loves me no matter what, unconditionally, and I don't know. He's my dad. I was the youngest of 4 by many years. The second youngest is Kim, and she's 7 years older than me. So they were a tight-knit group, and then I came along and surprised everybody. I think I was an oops. I really have no hang-ups about that. But my world revolves around my family, and I've learned so much through them. I feel that growing up, my siblings, when they did things like their activities, if they experienced them, I didn't have to experience them because they did it, and it was almost like I had done it. I feel very close to all of them in a different way. They're all different, and I have a different relationship with all of them, and I love every one of them. I'm so grateful for all of them and their families. We're all very close. Yeah.
You get a chance to see most of your nephews and nieces all together like this, or is this unusual?
Yeah, actually. I mean, it's not every month that we are like this together, but I think we all really feel it's very important, and we make an effort because we all feel that cousins really meant a lot to us in our life growing up, and thankfully my husband feels the same way. We're very close to his family and nieces and nephews, and we see how meaningful it is for our children to be with their cousins and their family, but they're not your family, and you can test the waters a little bit with your aunts and uncles, and you learn a lot from your cousins, and we feel it's so important. So we really all make an effort to be together.
That's great. Anything else you'd like to add?
I'm so grateful to be here. I think everybody is, and I think that shows in the way that everybody's made an effort to be here. We did this for my mom 2 years ago. We had a family reunion, and it was very meaningful to all of us to be connected with our family on her side. And and it's amazing because it was during 4th of July weekend, so 2 years ago exactly. So 2 years later, we're here with our Peck side of the family, and it's great because as the youngest Peck child, I was a lot younger than many others. Jenny and Adam, I knew growing up, but the rest of them were a lot older than me, the rest of the cousins, so it's really neat to get to know them as an adult, and get to know their children and have my children bond with theirs, so it's been fun.
You never met your grandfather, did you, or grandmother? Or
I met Grandpa Pig. You're going to edit that, right?
Would you like to read?
No, you're really going to edit that, please. I met Grandpa Peck when he died when I was 6, and I do remember him. He used to give me noogies, and he used to crack walnuts at our table. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember that. And
I think we all remember that.
Yeah, and I remember his beard and
Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, the Colonel. And I've heard many stories, and I'm grateful that I got to know him for the short period. I never knew Grandma, but Dad just gets a magical look in his eye when he speaks of his mother. So I'm sorry that I didn't get to meet her.
Okay, I'm Ann Peck. I'm married to Dave Peck. He's over here somewhere. I don't know, he's over here somewhere. We will be married for 18 years in about 3 days, our anniversary. Time flies. We have 2 children, Sawyer Peck and Andrew Peck. Sawyer's 13, Andrew is 11. My father-in-law is Russ Peck. My mother-in-law is Suzanne Peck. And
I was just going to say, what can you tell me about David?
David is a builder. He's a home builder, and he built this home. And we started dating almost right after he built this home. And then he came back up here to build Bud's Lumber in Raymond, I want to say. And I came up here to stay very early on when the house was brand new, visiting my sweetie. So I've been coming to Lynn Point for a long time, and it's a very magical place. And then after we got married, we lived in Santa Cruz, and then we ended up building our own place in the Los Gatos Mountains, and that is where we are now.
Have you been up here with your kids before? Have
Yes,
they seen it?
Absolutely. We've come up here a number of times. Probably not often enough, as it's a hike to get up here from the Silicon Valley, but we really enjoy it when we do. The last time we were here was 2 summers ago, and for Dave's 50th birthday, Russ wanted to take him and the boys, Andrew and Sawyer, fishing on a local Indian reservation. It was a big deal. Had to get reservations in advance, and they were taken out very early in the morning to go fishing, and they came home with 1 trout, 1 small trout. I called it the $600 fish. So, but they had a great experience. Oh, it was a Gwinault. Is that right? Yeah. And that's where they went. So it was a wonderful experience, and so sweet of Russ to do that for Dave's 50th.
Tell me a little bit about Andrew and Sawyer.
They're very active boys. Sawyer's going to be a freshman in high school next year, and Andrew will be in the 6th grade. Andrew plays baseball and soccer. Sawyer plays soccer and is going to start playing water polo for the high school, which we're excited about. And keep him focused on his academics, but they're good kids, social, fun, but they love being with their cousins. That's a highlight.
So they get a chance to see their cousins.
Right. We see Sophia and Ben, Kristen and Luis's kids most often because they're close. They're about an hour away. Kim's down in San Diego, so we don't get to see Annika and Natalie as often. But we make an effort to get together as a big extended family at least once a year. And
how about Russ and Sue? Tell me a little bit.
They get along great, and for any big holiday, I've hosted a number of Thanksgivings, and Sue comes over and Russ comes over, and my parents are also divorced, and everyone gets along just great. So we're one big happy family.
How would you describe Sue?
Sue is a wonderful woman who is just kind and generous and helpful and loves to be a part of a party. She does not miss a party. And Russ is a great meat cook. He's always in charge of the meat no matter what. If I'm hosting Thanksgiving, he still does the turkey. And I don't argue, and he does a great job. And especially the gravy. He's a gravy master. And also stuffing. It's unbelievable. Russ is a really good cook, and I've always been impressed by that, by his cooking skills.
So what's it been like the last couple of days here?
Really fun. I have not met many of Dave's first cousins, so it's been just a delight getting to know his cousins and hearing stories about their grandparents that I'd never heard before. So, I mean, I've heard them from Dave, but here I see all these different cousins that have a lot of different experiences with his grandparents, because I know Dave's grandfather died when he was fairly young. So many cousins have different memories of him and Russell, their grandmother, and it's been really fun to hear since those are my children's great-grandparents. So I soak up the culture and the information.
I'm listening to everything.
Should I put my hair down?
No.
Oh, leave it. Wait, I have corn in my teeth.
It's okay.
I have some in mine too.
Wait, but you're back there. Okay. My name is Melanie Sue Peck Graham. So Russell Peck is my father, and Suzanne Peck is my mother. I'm their eldest daughter. I'm 54 years old. I was born 13 months after they were married, conceived in a pup tent in Austria, in the Alps on their honeymoon. Yes.
Do you remember?
No, but my mom is absolutely positive that was the time that I was conceived. I always thought that was kind of a cool story. Yeah. So I grew up in Los Altos with my parents and my siblings, and I had a great childhood down there in California, played lots of sports, and had a horse, and had fun vacations. And I think my parents, even though we were not hurting financially, they did a good job with us being responsible, and so they really, taught us well about money, I think. But I still felt odd about kind of coming from a privileged place, so I left when I graduated. I wanted to kind of do things on my own. I did not want my parents to help me with college. I went to San Diego State for a couple of years and had fun, but it was, I made the dean's list going to the beach every day, so that tells you anything. So anyway, I was pretty independent, and I really liked the out of doors, so I dropped out of school at that point and lived in the Grand Canyon in Arizona for about a year and a half, and just did various jobs, and then kind of tried to figure out, what I wanted to do next. And so then I found out about a school called Huxley College of Environmental Science. It's in Bellingham. It's part of Western Washington University, and so I ended up going back to school up there in Washington State in 1980, and I have lived there ever since. Shocking to me, really, because I love the Southwest and have gone back many, many times, but I, met a guy that I ended up marrying, Oscar Graham, and had 2 kids. One of them is Galena. Charity talked, but she's my youngest at 20, and I have a son that's 23, Finn Graham, who isn't able to be interviewed. He's not here, and the marriage did not last long, however. So I've been, just still up there. The kids, Oscar and I get along really very well. So we, ended up raising the kids across a valley from each other on either side of a valley. But I know it probably wasn't easy for the kids, but it did work. So I am a school teacher. I teach in a small town on an Indian reservation. So it's kind of a unique place. It seems almost like a private school because it's pretty challenging, and we have a lot of grants, but it's not. It's a public school. I teach Spanish, environmental science, health, yoga, and I've done that for a long time, since Galena was a baby, and she's 20. And then even before that job, I was hired on by the Forest Service as a ranger. So I've worked that job too all of these years. So this summer, I actually am taking a couple days off now, and this is my 27th season doing that. So it seems like I've worked a lot the past 3 decades or so. I'm, raising kids and doing it pretty much by myself. But so I'm kind of ready to do something different. I'm not sure what that is exactly, or how, or where, but I think about it. So my family is really important to me. I love California, especially living in Washington for so many years. Going back and forth is really easy to do. I haven't driven, but I jump on a plane, can go hear my sister sing, or see mom, see dad. Mom and I have done a lot of trips together. Been to Europe. She's gone camping with us. Ecuador. Well, I didn't go with her though. Yeah, but I've traveled a fair bit, and it's been good. It's been good. Lynn Point, this place that we are now, I'm probably the closest physically, geographically to it, and I've been here many, many times. Drive down with the dog and spend a few days with Dad and Nadja, and it's great. It's fun to be able to come and like Dad said last night, is to see it so used. So I'm glad that everybody's here, and kind of thinking that maybe once a year, maybe we'll pick a weekend in the summertime and just let everybody know, and whoever can come comes. Maybe not have it quite so formal and large, but I think that'd be kind of a neat thing to just kind of keep going. So.
Tell me a little bit about your dad.
My dad is he's an interesting cat. He's pretty strict. I think he's pretty intimidating to a lot of people. As a young girl, we butted heads a lot, and I remember standing up to him at a dinner table one night and swearing at him, and just telling him in front of everyone that I was done and he couldn't tell me what to do, and everyone was completely pale and shocked and was waiting for death to drop on me, and I was fine. He was shocked too, I think, and ever since then we kind of gained a little mutual respect. I really think so. We've butted heads over the years, but actually we have a pretty good thing. He's got a really good heart and a good soul. He's just I think it's a shame that my kids grew up, there's kind of like 8 grandkids, 4 older and 4 younger, and the 4 older ones still kind of had him in the gruff period, and also they were distant from him, so I don't think they know him as well as the younger kids all do. So I think that's great that they do. They get a chance to spend a lot of time with Grandpa. But he's really a smart man, really a very intelligent guy, and loves to read about war. I have a lot of memories of him sitting in his chair reading really thick books about World War II. A lot of memories, and we to this day we have a conflicted vision of how to drive a stick shift, because I like to idle at lights and stop signs, and he thinks that I should remain in first gear, and so we have had some very large fights about that, and I still drive stick shift to this day and do it just like I do it. But when he gets in the car, he tries to tell me how I should do it. But anyway, so no, he's a good man, and I'm proud of him, and I love him a lot. I'm glad he's my dad. Oh, my mom. My mom, I could really talk forever about my mom. Yeah, she's probably one of my best friends. I talk to her almost every day on the phone. We've done a ton. I'm going to cry about my mom here.
No.
I don't know. I can't do that one.
Yeah. Concentrated and then taken down. What it did was,
how about tell me a little bit about your daughter and your son.
Oh, they just had
below that, let that top
Okay, so my kids are Finley Graham. Finley is his a family name. It's his dad's middle name, his grandfather's middle name, and his great-grandmother's last name.
You don't ever want to get.
So I think it's neat. It was a family name that kind of dropped down through generations, and then I like that it was a girl, a man and a woman's name. It fits him very well. We call him Finn, and I really love him a lot. He's a really good, a good boy that just doesn't quite know what he's going to do with life yet, but I think he's getting closer. He's, he likes to have fun. He doesn't really want to be tied to a job or a desk, and but he wants to, live comfortably and make money. So, I'm not really sure how to do that, but so I just am kind of there for him. He I don't know, what should I say about Finn? As a single mom, I realized, I love sports, but as I realized that I needed to be able to connect with him a certain way. So basically, we talk about baseball and football, and I know sports names, players, stats, just because it's a way for me to banter with Finn, and it's worked really well. Sometimes I feel like that's what we talk about, but not always. I think he can get very deep with me. He's a very philosophical kind of guy, and he tells me sometimes way more than I want to know. But he really he's working now at a shellfish company, and so he was working pretty hard physically and trying to pay off some bills, and that sort of struggling time of your life. But I'm worried about him a lot the last few years, but I think he might be on a straighter path now, and I'm glad about that. It's a relief. Yeah. Galena, I think Galena, my mom had a really strong relationship with her mother, and I have one with mine, and I think we've just continued it. With Galena, she was named after a mineral. I was in my early 20s, and I was at a museum at the University of Washington, and I saw this rock in a case, and it was spelled Galena, and I speak Spanish, so I called it Galena, and I said, I'm naming my daughter that word someday. I love it. Something about it really struck me, and so Finn would have been Galena, and Galena would have been Gable if she was a boy. Her middle name is Robinson, so we kept the family name with Galena that way. And we have a lot in common. We're a lot alike, which we just have a nice time together. I think she's very adventurous. Finn's much more of a kind of a home. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't leave the valley that we live in. He's very comfortable there. Galena probably will never come back. Maybe just to visit, maybe. Which is kind of like me. And so we have a lot in common. But I see a lot of her dad in her, too. She's very lyrical and poetic and creative and physical and strong and beautiful. So she's in college and studying Spanish, which is what I studied in college. So we do have a lot in common, I think. So What else?
How about your sisters and your brother?
My sisters and my brother. Was everyone else's this long? Yeah.
Everybody else's isn't this.
Oh, okay. I have a very strong bond with Kristen. She was the youngest and I was the oldest, so I took care of her and defended her against all the mean boys and girls in the neighborhood, and that has kind of continued. I don't take care of her anymore, but we have a nice bond. We probably have anyway, and then Kim and I kind of battled heads for a long time. I think we're pretty different, but it's the last, I don't know, 5 or more years. It's been really nice. We've grown to appreciate each other a lot more, and we talk much more often. And I think we have it's a different kind of bond, but I think it's getting stronger and stronger, and I like that. She's really a smart person and fun. She likes to do things, and she's active, and so I like that. I feel like I've lost David a little bit over the years. He's busy with work and busy with his family, and we just haven't connected much. So and I kind of miss that. So it'd be nice to change that. I'm not really sure how, but that's yeah.
Do you have any memories of your grandfather and your grandmother? Yeah.
Grandma. Yeah, I remember formal dinners. We had to be perfect and just sit there and not really even talk. We were petrified most of the meal. Thanks, Dad. Okay. Being over there one time at their house, and they had this little snow globe, and I was messing around with it, and I broke it, and it was bad. It was bad. I mean, everyone was so disappointed in me, and I mean, look, I'm 54 years old, and I still feel bad about it. It's bad. We had some amazing apple fights in the backyard. I remember being kind of frightening. I mean, the men got way into it and started hurling those things, and the kids would sort of drop out, and the men would just kind of keep going. Grandpa I didn't really like Grandpa. I was kind of afraid of him. He was very bristly and would rub his cheek against yours and kind of do these little picky things, always asking me about, do you have a boyfriend yet? And I never did, so I was, no, Grandpa, or I'd avoid him because I knew he would ask me that, and I think he did just because he knew I was uncomfortable. But the last few years I remember him peeling apples at the kitchen table. Mom would make pies, and she would just want to keep him busy, I think, and he'd just peel bowls of apples, and that was a nice way. He was kind of over there, and you could sort of be around him without him,
Did he crack on?
Yeah, did that too. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And Grandma, I remember Grandma just being really soft and small, Southern accent. You sweet little thank you. I remember that. Kind of just, little tidbits here and there. I remember her, I think she must have had false teeth. I remember her taking them out and putting them on a sink, and I was just shocked because I had never seen anybody do that. I didn't know that one could do that, and I don't know where those come from. But I don't even know if that was her. I think that was a memory of Grandma. But I remember her being in the hospital, and they wouldn't let us in. I don't know, I guess we were kids, and I remember Dad was up there, and we being in a car down below and just sort of walking around and throwing rocks and kept looking up at the window and just feeling like we wish kind of that we could go up there too and kind of sort of check it out, but I don't think we were ever allowed in there. So that's one of my last memories of Grandma, I guess, is that being outside the hospital.
So what's it been like to last couple of days here?
Oh, you know, it's been great. I think it's better than anyone. We didn't really have any expectations, you know, but a lot of people showed up, and people have been so open and friendly and interacting, not just, you know, hanging around with their family groups, but really going out of their way to talk and tell stories and get to know each other. There's been a lot of, you know, it's nice to be able to leave and, you know, go drive around or, you know, go to the beach and come back and kind of come in and come and go with it. But I think it's been really important for our family to do it, especially, you know, our generation kind of had it, sort of, but for the next generation to sort of set that up, and then, you know, you guys can do whatever you do with it. But I think now that you have something tangible to go from, so it's been great, really, really good. Yeah.
So it's just warning the kids, don't push. It's because you can get hurt. And what else? A little accident happened today, the day after 4th of July. So, like, you know, like Sophia was walking and Elaine was pushing Sophia. Yeah, woo, woo. And then I was tying my shoe. And then she pushed her and she fell over and said, I'm right here. She fell on me and that kind of hurt. So
Did anybody get hurt?
What?
Was anybody hurt?
I got hurt, and Sophia got hurt, and we had to say no pushing, but everything's settled now.
Well, I am Nadia Peck, a.k.a. Nadezhda Alexandrovna Mizinova Peck. I definitely have a very strong Russian heritage.
Very nice.
Coming along. I came to the United States, my first time, I believe, was in 1989, and it had nothing to do with Russell Peck at all.
What did it have to do with? What did you come here for?
I used to be a professional interpreter and an English professor in Moscow, Russia, and I love to take up some American English-speaking delegations in general and guide them around Moscow or whatever the program was. It was in other cities as well. And then eventually one of the groups that I was leading had Russian, and we really did not hook up right away. I was a married woman, I had a child, and there was no spark at the first meeting or whatever. Pretty much it was one of the groups. And I probably, through my entire career in Russia, I probably led about 40-50 groups. And I got very friendly with a couple of ladies that were also participants in Russ's group. And these ladies were very determined to bring me over to the United States for a vacation, which I said fine, but you know, I really didn't have any high expectations because pretty much I had heard it before many times and nothing really materialized. So I said, fine, send me an invitation. But these two ladies were really special, and lo and behold, 6 months later, I did receive an invitation to come to the United States for a vacation, and I did, and it was wonderful. So I visited many families in the Bay Area. All these families were of the people who were part of these delegations. Actually, it was not just Russ's group who came, which came from that Carpenters Union. There were I believe 3 of those or 2 of those. So anyway, that was it. After that I left back to go to Russia, and then another program came up. That was a program for educators. Again, it had nothing to do with Russell. And they invited me to come here and be like a foreign language advisor in high school programs for Russian, and that's what I did. And for 2 years I lived in Minnesota. And when I came to Minnesota, I certainly called pretty much all the people whom I knew in the United States, and at that time I have known quite a few of those. So anyway, Russell was one of the people, and we talked on the phone quite numerous times, and then eventually he said, I'd like to come and visit you in Minnesota on my way to whatever. He had some business in Washington, D.C. and so on. I said, fine, come over. And that was kind of slightly the beginning of the relationship. And then I was really very firm going back to Russia. I did not plan to stay at all. But unfortunately in Russia at that time things were really bad. And when I called my family and say, the school is offering me to keep me for at least another year, if not 2, and I'm at a loss what to do, because I did want to go back. But my family said, things are so bad in Russia now, so why don't you kind of sit it out in the United States? And then came when things lightened up. And during that year, we decided to stay, which was in Rochester, Minnesota. I found a full-time position teaching ESL in high school. Kind of Russ and I got hooked up, and so that led to our marriage eventually in 1993. So I'm sorry, it was a long introduction. I always loved his sense of humor. We always have had great laughs, and he has very keen mind, and he notices a lot of things. He is a very good conversationalist, and that's what probably attracted me to him more than anything else. So then I liked his proactive personality. Then he does not just sit around and talks about things, he actually does things. And this particular reunion that we had is another proof of it, because it was totally his idea that came up like a spark about a year ago, and I said, okay, you want to do it, let's do it, and he actually followed up on that. And I think that's great.
What's it been like?
Having a reunion?
Yeah. How's it turned out?
I did like it. It certainly is very different from our usual mode of visiting Lynn Point, because as I said the other night, there are just 2 of us here. And it's very quiet, it's very peaceful. We are watching the animals. We're trying to see as much as we can of wildlife, which is very prolific here. And it's just to get it from it all, as they say. And that's what we absolutely love about Lynn Point. And this whole house and this beautiful area has such a wonderfully relaxing ambience that it's very easy to fall in love with that. I wish we had been using it more. I hope that we we will be using it more as the years go by, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. My daughter, Dasha, was born and raised till she was 15 in Russia, and was a very headstrong child all her life. And when we came to the States, she had a pretty hard time adjusting and finding her bearings in the United States. But I think now she is very happy and very well adapted.
She's married now, right?
She is married now, very happily, to a Frenchman. His name is David, and David is Frenchman, not like Americanized Frenchman of any kind, although they decided to relocate here from Paris. They lived for 3 years in Paris. David is originally from La Rochelle, which is in Bordeaux, on the west coast, on the Atlantic coast. And they just decided that they might have better opportunities here in the United States. And I'm definitely very happy being a grandma and having my grandkids so close to me. I do babysitting, probably not as much as I would love to, but I'm still working, so once I retire, I certainly will plan to spend even more time with them. But they're too rambunctious, troublemakers, whatever, just being typical small kids, and that's the fun of it.
What are their names?
Elena is 5 at the moment, and Alex is 3. Actually, Alex is like shortened, Americanized version. His full name is Alexander, not Alexander, but Alexander. And it's pretty much like a Russian, I think it's an international name, but the thing is that my dad and Dasha's grandpa was Alexander. That's a very typical Russian male name. So, and his nickname is Sasha. So for me, and that's a nickname for Alexander in Russia. So people get a little bit confused when I start telling Sasha, come up, and I speak only Russian to my grandkids. I do not speak any English to them.
So they're learning all kinds of languages.
I hope they will be multilingual, to some extent.
It's a great head start you're giving.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, I'm Vince Vodder. I am married to Kim Peck Vodder, so I'm intricately linked to this family by marriage, and I'm very happy because of it. It's a very caring family, a very tight-knit family. I've enjoyed every moment of being involved with this family, since my family is a little bit different. They take care of each other. We do a lot of things together, which is really fun. Just like this event up here. The fact that Russ took the time and trouble to organize this event to get extended family together, I think it means a lot to this family. Russ is quite a character. He wants to get his way, and fortunately he usually does. He's very smart. He's a self-made man. He enjoys life, which is good, so I respect him for that, and I actually look up to him because he's made something of his life and developed his dream into reality, and knows how to enjoy life too, which is good. Sue is a very, very caring, very talented woman. She's very artistic, cares deeply for her kids, provides lots of support to everybody in the family, and myself included. It includes people. She's now in a stage in life where she's traveling quite a bit and she just went to Vietnam for a couple weeks and just enjoying life, which is a great thing. And being very involved with her art. She's an amazing artist.
And how about your wife? Tell me about Kim.
Well, Kim is, she's an attorney by profession. She does estate planning and, once again, taking care of people is sort of a theme. So she wants to help people out, take care of them through the events that are caused by death in the family, setting up estates and trust ahead of time. And when someone in the family dies, the process of probate. These are very high-end clients, but that doesn't matter. They're still people that need a lot of help, and they really appreciate the fact that she cares deeply for them and helps them solve their problems. And her law firm really appreciates that too. Besides that, she's an amazing wife, an amazing mother, a fantastic tennis player. She keeps trying to get me to take up tennis, but I won't do it. Great skier, loves the outdoors, so we have a lot in common. And we've always had I think the interest throughout our married lives to raise our kids as best possible, make that our number one priority. So we've tried to raise 2 daughters just to be great people, and hopefully we succeed at that.
How are they? Tell me about
They're fantastic. Annika's at UC Santa Barbara, going into the 4th year in aquatic biology, and Natalie's just finished her 1st year at UCLA, very competitive biology program. They have a lot of ambitions. They love to learn, and they also like to have fun too, which is great. And the most amazing thing is, even after all this time, being age 21 and 18, they want to hang out with their parents on a camping trip like this, which we think is great.
So they actually looked forward to this, right?
They did, and they look forward to coming to Lynn Point because they have a lot of good memories of this place. We came here when Dave was building it. The first time there was a foundation only. Dave was working with Paul and Bruce and some other folks, and we were pregnant with Annika at the time and had a little puppy, and we came back later on when the house was almost finished, and then we moved up to the Seattle, then Redmond area, and so as often as we could, we'd come up here and visit this place. And so it became extremely important to our family. There was no television, no distractions. It was outdoors, clamming, hiking, walking, or indoors doing art, or just reading, or just playing cards, or enjoying nature. So there are times when we had serious wind and windstorms and blizzards in Seattle that knocked our power out. We threw baby Annika in the car and came down here, even though there was snow on the ground here, and basically lived out of this place for a week while Seattle was in disarray trying to repair things, and just amazing adventures like this. So it's a really great place. Really good to be back here.
Now I understand you made kind of a trip out of getting here. Even all of you went camping on your.
That's right. I bought a new tow vehicle for a camper because our other one wasn't working. We got our camper all fixed up again, hooked it up, and we stayed in the Redwoods for a night, and 2 nights on the Oregon coast with Dave and Chris and their families, and then came up here. So we had quite an adventure of camping to get here. And now we're camping here, of course, too. So it's really fun. And we're going to do some more camping on the way home. So it's a 2-week trip for us. For Russ and Nadja and Sue in her way, that everything you've done to not just make this family reunion, but everything to pull together Lynn Point to make it a focus of interest, a place of retreat, a place of renewal. I appreciate this extremely deeply, and so does everybody in my family.
Okay, I'm Kimberly Peck Vodder, and I'm here at the reunion with my family, my husband Vince. We're going to be celebrating our 25th anniversary this month, and our 2 daughters, Annika and Natalie, who are 21 and 19, almost 19. Natalie will be 19 this month too.
Tell me about your daughter.
Well, my daughter Annika is going into her senior year at UC Santa Barbara, and she's an aquatics biology major, and she would like to be a scientist when she grows up, working in the marine biology field, probably. wonderfully. So, and then my daughter Natalie is a biology major going into her sophomore year at UCLA. So.
And what are they like? How would you describe?
Oh, they're just personality. They're just great kids, and they're both. Their dad and I love them so much, and they're different in their own, unique in their own ways, and they are wonderful to have back home after being empty nesters this year for the first time. And the house is a little too quiet without them. So.
Have you had a fun trip coming all the way up from San Diego to get here?
We have. We're able to camp for 3 nights along the California and Oregon coast with Dave's family and with Kristen's family. So it was really, really fun. We had a great time. So, well, Vince is an electrical engineer, and he is an avid cyclist and hiker. He's a great dad and a great husband, and he's a wonderful guy. Well, Dad has always been a real strong figure in our family, strong disciplinarian, and strong leader in our family. He has a great sense of humor, but he can be very serious, and I admire him for his dedication to his work, and he's achieved so much but through hard work and basically building a business, on his own from scratch with no help to begin with, so he really is a self-made man, and I admire that a lot. And my mom is just a wonderful lady who just turned 80, and you'd never know it. She has so much energy, and we're really blessed to have her in our lives. She's been the glue in our family that's held us together, and she's always so caring and nurturing towards everyone in our family and extended family too. So, well, that we've always been close, and it's we don't get to see each other as much as we'd like since we don't live really close by. But we have to make an effort, just because of the distance. But it's always great to see my siblings, and I love my nieces and nephews. They're wonderful, and it's wonderful to spend family time together. It's awesome. I remember Grandma and Grandpa Peck. We would go visit them at their house in Oakland, and I remember their house. I remember the wallpaper in the dining room had little apple trees on it. I don't know if anyone else has that memory. And I remember the living room, and there was a picture of a flamingo on the wall. It had a flamingo in it. And Grandma used to get out when we would visit these little cardboard cutouts that were farm animals that you could trace around. And she'd get paper and pencils and these things, and they'd been traced around about 1,000 times. And that's what we would do over there. And then I also remember major lemon fights in the backyard with the older cousins. Like Mike, you were probably one of the participants, but they got pretty brutal, and as a little kid you realized that this was serious and you better get out of the way or you might get hit really hard with a lemon in the head. So Grandpa Peck would be out there throwing the lemons, and it would turn into this just crazy fight out there, I remember. So and I also remember Grandpa making peanut butter fudge in his little tiny kitchen. Do you remember the peanut butter fudge?
Oh, very much so.
Do you happen to have the recipe for the peanut butter fudge? Because I asked Debbie. And she said she probably has it. So, but I just remember that being really good. Everybody liked it. Whereas some things
I didn't, but almost everybody.
Oh, you didn't like it? Yeah, you didn't like it. Okay.
And you also like cracking walnuts.
Cracking walnuts, yes. He would go when he'd come and visit when he was older. After Grandma died, Mom would set him up on the deck with a big bowl of shelled walnuts, with the shells, and she'd give him a nutcracker, and he'd be out there happy as a clam. What wasn't terribly sociable. And I do remember his game where he would squeeze little kids' hands. I don't know if you remember that. He would kind of lure you over and then want to shake your hand, and then he would squeeze, and you're supposed to squeeze his. Yeah, and you're supposed to squeeze him as hard as you could, and then he'd squeeze harder to the point where you're practically screaming, and then he'd finally let go. I remember that.
I wasn't sure if he did it with the little girls.
He did it with the little girls. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
He definitely did it with us.
You did, yeah. And then I remember Grandma with her her accent from Georgia, and she'd lean over and she'd squeeze your cheek, and she'd say, "Bless your little heart." Do you remember when she'd say that?
That's funny.
So, and I remember one time I walked into the bedroom that they were sleeping in when they were visiting the house, and they were both there in the bed, which probably kind of surprised them. But they were very nice, and I think I even got up there on the bed with them and snuggled a little bit, and I was a little kid. But I just remember that. Like, you don't normally see your grandparents in their pajamas with bare feet, you know. But oh, yeah. Lynn Point is a special place for my family because we started coming here. Actually, I came here when I was pregnant with Annika and saw David building the house with the other guys. And then she came here as a baby, and we were a young family where we didn't get to go on a lot of vacations, and we would come down here on the weekends because we were living in Washington then. And we would spend time in the house. There was never a TV here, just crayons and blocks and books, and we'd have big fires and go hiking, and it's always been a very special place. So it's fun to come back here and to see all these people. It's kind of I knew it's really like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see all these people again, all in one place. So, and it's sad there's certain family members who are absent, and it's sad that they're not able to be here too. But I figure they're here in spirit. So.
Alana, I came here in the night. But I waked up in the night, and I went to the plane in the night.
Yeah. And what's your mommy's name?
Dasha, and my brother's name is Alex, and my dad's name is David, and I live in Castro Valley.
Your
my
grandma?
grandma's name is Nadia.
Tell me about your grandma. What can you tell me about her?
His name is Russ.
Oh, you're talking about Russ? Yeah. And do you like your grandma?
Yeah.
What do you like to do with her?
I like to play with her. And we do games together.
Oh, good. And how about your mother and your father?
Oh, my mother and my father.
Yeah.
They play with me sometimes, but sometimes they have some jobs to do.
Oh, sometimes they have to work, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I go to school with my friends.
what grade are you in?
Activities.
Activities? And how old are you?
5.
5. Wow. 5 years old. And what school do you go to? A school?
Yeah, I'm going to kindergarten next time.
Oh, that'll be fun.
When I leave and I go to school on Monday,
Yeah.
I'm graduating.
Oh, you're going to have a graduation? That's going to be fun. All right. And have you had fun the last couple of days here?
Yeah.
Great. You've been playing with the...
For 6 days at school, but on Friday I go to school too, but on Wednesday I left.
Oh, well, that's good. But you're going back next week for the graduation, right?
Yeah.
Boy, that'll be great. And then you'll be in kindergarten, right?
Yeah.
You were going to preschool, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, good. What comes after kindergarten?
I after kindergarten, I'm going to a big school.
Oh, that'll be a lot of fun then. Well, thank you. It was nice talking with you. You want to say anything else?
No.
Okay, thanks. So, tell me, what's your name?
Sophia.
And Sophia. Tell me how you're related to Luis and Kristen.
Well, my mom, she's Kristen, and my dad is Luis.
Yeah.
And my mom is, her father is Russ.
Right. And who's her mom?
Suzanne.
Suzanne. Tell me about your grandmother. What's she like?
Well, she's very nice, and she likes to tell stories.
Yeah.
And she's fun to talk with, and she's just very entertaining and fun.
That's great. How about your grandpa? What's he like?
He's very nice. I love him really much, and he's so supportive when it comes to our baseball games and our dance recitals.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they don't live too far away either, do they?
Yeah, they don't actually.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, you probably don't get a chance to see your other grandma too much because she lives a long ways away, right?
Yeah. Well, my grandma?
Right.
Actually, she doesn't live that far away, actually, just an hour away.
Oh, I mean your dad's mom.
Oh, yeah, she lives in Puerto Rico.
Right. So you just visit her every once in a while.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people gone in an hour.
Exactly. You're staying on for a day or two, right?
Well, I don't have to be back to work until Monday.
Right.
But I think what I'll do is probably stay today and then leave in the morning tomorrow. And then I have some time at home. It's about 4 hours to get home.
4 hours? That's not too bad.
Except it's through Seattle and Olympia. It's through a rough section. It's Skagit Valley. It's Skagit. It's called the Mighty Skagit. The Magic Skagit.
The Magic Skagit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool place. It's really rural and very crop oriented.
Crop oriented?
Crop. Yeah, there's
nice.
we have strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, potatoes. It's known for its seeds. Like we grow mustard. Yeah, most of the mustard seeds in the world come from Skagit Valley.
I'm Sawyer Peck, and my dad is Dave, and my mom is Anna, and I'm 13 years old.
And what do you like to do? What sort of?
I love to take bike rides, and I don't get to do rock climbing that much, but I love to do rock climbing.
Oh, you do?
Like paintballing, shooting things.
Where do you live?
I live up in the mountains, kind of like between Los Gatos and Santa Cruz in the mountains, like right there. Like Redwood Estates, kind of.
Sort of near the summit, kind of?
Oh, yeah, like right there.
Okay. And tell me about your parents. What can you tell me about them?
Well, my dad is the son of Russ, which is like the host kind of the party.
Yeah.
And his mom is Suzanne Peck, or Big Mama.
You call her Big Mama?
No, but a lot of people do.
Oh.
And I call her Grandma. And wait, what else do you want to know?
Well, tell me about your grandma, Big Mama.
Well, my grandma is super awesome. She's like, what do you want to know?
What sort of things do you do with her, or what sort of person is she, or personality-wise?
She's an awesome personality. She always just cares for people, and she never passes people, if they're feeling sick or something, she never passes people by, and she'll always stop and ask what's wrong, or just little things like that.
And how about your grandpa? What's he like?
Well, Grandpa is Well, he's kind of like a person that just says kind of like toughen up or something like that. But he still is really caring, and he loves each and every one of like his kids, his grandkids, and his yeah.
How about your mom? How would you describe your mom?
Oh, she's awesome. She growing up, she like really she took care of me like through all the hard times I've had, and I really remember her like just being there for me whenever like there was like a tough time.
All right. How about your dad? Tell me about him.
Oh well, same with him. Every time I've had like a hard time, he's always there too, along with my mom. And I think of my dad as a role model because he's done so many good things. There's a lot to live up to. He's he built the house. He climbed Half Dome twice, I think.
Did he get you started rock climbing too? Or?
Yeah, he did.
Right.
He's just an awesome person that I look up to.
Great. And how about your brother? What can you tell me about him?
Well, he's annoying most of the time,
but totally awesome,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, totally awesome the other time. Well, when he's not being annoying, he can, he's really caring towards other people, and he doesn't, like, he's not annoying the other side of the half, if you know what I mean.
How much younger than you is he?
He's about 2.5 years.
Oh, okay. So, you getting closer with him as you get older?
Yeah,
or do you,
definitely.
Oh, okay. That's great. And what's it been like for the last few days hanging out with all these people? And you probably see some of them a lot, but others never, right?
Yeah, I've seen, like Sophia and Ben, I see them all the time, but it's really good to see them up here, and there's a lot of cousins I haven't met, like Lucy, Jessie, and Emma, and I've never seen them before, and they're really awesome, and I was excited to meet them, and it's just really nice to know that I have more cousins that I hadn't met, and it's just cool.
So have you been figuring out who belongs with who and how all this family is set up and all that?
So
a little confusing?
Yeah, it's really confusing. Yeah.
There are a lot of them, aren't there?
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
All right. Anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I'm sad to be leaving.
I'm Andrew Peck. Well, my Grandpa Russ, he had children. My dad, Auntie Melanie, and Auntie Chris, and Auntie Kim, and they're all brothers and sisters. And my dad was the only boy, and his two sons were Sawyer and me, and and that's how we're Grandpa Russ's grandsons.
What can you tell me about your grandpa?
He's really awesome. He might get a little grumpy sometimes, but he's always awesome. Like, he's just like, sometimes he follows rules, but then sometimes he like doesn't follow rules, and it's really fun.
Do you do anything with him ever? Do you like to?
We have parties at his house, and we have and he always just, even if it's not like a good party or anything, he still, even if it's not good at all, he still tries to enjoy it. He tries to enjoy life.
That's great. How about your grandmother, Sue?
Grandma Sue, she loves just like hanging out. It's hard for her to, not hard to, but she just loves like traveling and doing art projects, and she's really, really good at painting because she's an artist. And there's paintings all over her house, and she's really nice, and we come over sometimes and do art projects with her and hang out with her, and yeah, it's really fun.
How about your dad? How would you describe your dad? What's he like?
Well, he can be grumpy when he's like when he hasn't ate, but right after he ate, he's really grumpy. But then it goes like away. But then he gets grumpy again.
Goes through a lot of grumpy, doesn't he?
Mhm.
Yeah. There he is now. What are you guessing? Grumpy or not grumpy right now?
Grumpy.
Grumpy. Yeah. I agree. I think grumpy. So, how about your mom? How would you?
She's really awesome. We go on trips like this a lot, and she always just like, if I kind of want to like, Mom, if it's like okay if we could do that, she says, sure, honey, only if like that. And if I do that, then I can do that. And it's really fun because it involves me to do stuff to earn, like do stuff to earn what I wanted.
Right.
But I have to earn it to get it. So.
Good. How about, and you've got a brother, right? Tell me about him.
He's really, really mean. Like,
Yeah.
he always like punches me, and if he loses at a sport, he just like tackles you. So it's like really mean. But and yeah, so he can like if you want to talk to him, he'll answer your question on like the 5th time. So like. We're like, sorry, and you keep saying that, and on like the 5th time you say sorry, he's like, what? So, yeah, so.
So it pretty much takes 5 times to get an answer. And how about, does he have any of the same grumpy problems that Dad has, or not?
Yeah, a little, but they're bigger than my dad's.
Oh, bigger. Oh, great.
But they're in a smaller situation.
Right. And is there anything good about your brother?
He can sometimes, like after a trip, if I'm at home, he can sometimes bring me something back or something. Or yeah, but yeah.
Pretty nice.
And maybe when we're hanging out alone, he can be all cool and stuff.
Oh.
But that's about it.
Very good. And what's it been like hanging out here and seeing all the cousins and stuff?
It's been a real spiritual time for me, where I could just realize like who's my family, and like how it's kind of weird because you think that you're all important, that you're a Peck, but then you realize that there's like so much other Pecks out there, and you haven't even met them yet. I think it's really, really awesome how my dad built this, and how he could build this so fast, and that it's just so cool and fascinating, and that everybody just thinks it's a really awesome place, and they really pimped it out, so it's really, really awesome.
So now
I walked by and I heard I was grumpy again. I better start listening.
Now we're talking to Grumpy here. So just tell me briefly, you built this house, David. You and a couple of friends. Tell me about, what was it like building it?
Well, it was very similar to this. Cloudy and gray. It was full of trees. We didn't have any power or septic or water. We could get water from the well, so we brought water from about 1,000 yards. I think it was 1,500 yards to the house, and it took us 3.5 months to build the house.
Pretty quick.
Fairly quick. We didn't finish the front upstairs. I don't remember all of what we did. Built the deck though in the garage, which was quite a bit extra than the house, right? That's a lot more. And it took about 3.5 months. We had quite a time. It was, we actually lived in the grove of alders over there. And
your first home here or there? Right.
Home away from home.
Right.
And we had a great 3.5 months. We were certainly glad it was over. And
so you have real ties to this place, I guess.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Have you been back here many times since?
No,
then?
just two or three times in about 20 years.
Oh.
Maybe once more, but it's difficult to come up. It's about 14 hours from home, so
right.
by car, so it's a little tricky with the 2 boys.
Right. So what's it been like this trip?
Wonderful trip with the family, meeting all the cousins and nephews and nieces. I'm just so thankful the boys were able to see and visit with the kids. It was just a dream come true for that connection, and to see all you guys, Mike and John and Cliff and Sue and Virginia, people I haven't seen for quite a long time, and Eric Moni and their family, just wonderful people, and just thankful to have done this.
So Andrew, did you get a little bit sick the first, was it the first night? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that. What happened? Was it the spaghetti or?
Yeah, I just ate too much spaghetti. John's cooking was really bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It really did suck, didn't it?
That was
yeah.
hysterical.
And did you eat anything else that night? Or?
I ate some bread and.
Oh, just bread and spaghetti?
Oh, and like the meat on top of it.
Was there any marshmallows involved?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, just checking. How about any like soda pop or anything?
Yeah, I had 2 sodas.
Oh, okay, just checking.
It's good that Ben kept his mouth shut.
Anything else? Chocolate or graham crackers or?
And 2 s'mores.
Oh, 2 s'mores.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but that was all, right? I think it was the spaghetti then. It was most likely the spaghetti. Thank you.
Okay.
Fun, very fun.
So Luis, what's been the highlight? What's been the best?
Took the rental car, took Mom to the airport.
There's been a lot of highlights, but one of my favorite highlights was seeing all my family and friends, and or just for everyone to gather up and meet each other.
I'm Dasha. I'm Nadia's daughter.
And what do you think of this whole event? How's it been?
I think it's fantastic. I finally made sense of Russ's family. Obviously, I always knew that his children, but you know, the brothers and the sisters, his brothers and sisters were always a mystery, and it was fantastic to meet their descendants and their families, and that's awesome.
Tell me about your 2 children here. We've actually already interviewed her, but who's this over here with Grandpa?
So we have Alexander and we have Elena, and Elena is 5, Alexander's 3. They really loved playing with all the little cousins and swinging on a swing.
What are they like? How would you describe Alexander? What's he like?
Oh, they're all obnoxious and little monsters. That sums it up about.
On some level. Right? And tell me about your husband. Who's that?
So David is not here today. He stayed back in the Bay Area.
He's in the Bay Area?
And he's a great guy.
Yeah. He's originally from France, right?
Yes, he is French.
So your kids are lucky. They're learning lots of languages, as I understand, right?
Oh, you know, but it comes very naturally. It's not like we're, like, I don't see that we make any special efforts. We just,
it just happens.
It's just something that we
Next time, don't try to tackle.
And all of a sudden they'll know 3 or 4 languages.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. So
we'll see.
Thank you. So hi, what's your name?
This is my son, Sawyer. He's 13, going on 21. I mean, 14.
How would you describe him? Tell me.
He's a brat, but he's
yeah.
No, but he's a great kid, and we're just on vacation with all the cousins, and happy to be here at the reunion, and very excited to have all the cousins meet each other for the first time. A lot of us haven't met.
Probably haven't met a lot of these people, right?
Yeah, I haven't met like half of them.
Yeah. What do you think of them so far?
They're awesome.
You better say that. You better say that.
They're really
cool.
cool.
Except for John. John, we're still worried about John.
There are exceptions. And you probably haven't even seen some of your cousins in a little while, right?
20 years, easily. Sue, Debbie, Cliff, I haven't seen for well over 20 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, very exciting to see everybody and reconnect with some of the old family gathering members. I have very vivid memories of when I was quite young and going over to Fremont, was it? Or Cliff? Hayward, and getting all the Pecks together, and we have some. I remember all the kids going on a little walk around town, and we got lost, and the parents were drinking probably way too much, and then finally realized all the kids were gone, and they had to go on the search to try and find us. Apparently, They found most of us. Thank God, just most of us.
There were the other
couple. Yeah, we lost a couple. But there were memories from a long time ago. That's 40 years plus. So, actually, I might not have seen Cliff for 40 years, possibly.
And how about Nancy and the Monies?
Well, the Monies we haven't seen since probably they came down to our home when I was a teenager, and it's great to see the kids grown up and now having kids. It's pretty amazing to see the kids and the parents, and just really wonderful to have all these healthy, wonderful kids around to
okay, so who else? How about Jim and Karen?
A while ago I did.
Well, Jim and Karen, Adam and Jenny, they were a lot closer than most just because that's Dad's brother. And we have a lot of memories with I was actually the ring bearer in Jim and Karen's wedding. Yeah, I think at the age of 4. And I do. I remember the ring was on that pillow, and I thought for sure I was going to drop it or break it because I didn't, because usually I dropped and broke everything. So, but so we've known each other. We've known them obviously since the beginning of their marriage, and ever since Jen and Adam have gotten big, and I haven't seen Jen maybe for 15 years or more, but Adam I saw last year in Manya with the kids, and they came to our place down in Los Gatos, and we had a great time, so I'm looking forward to them coming.
What's Adam like? Tell me about Adam.
Well, he's not real smart. We're worried about that, but for the most part, no. Adam, I always had a close connection with Adam, and certainly Jim. Jim used to write me letters as a young man, and when my father and I couldn't see eye to eye, Jim was always able to bridge that communication gap and give me some insight that really helped me quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit. So, but we don't, 2 states away, or 1 state, but 25 hours or 20 hours away, it gets a little tricky through the years. And now having kids myself, not a whole lot of time to get up and boogie, as they say. So
yeah. Tell me about your mom and your dad.
Well, they're 80, both of them. Yeah, they just turned 80, each one this year. So we're excited about that, and both in great health. Pretty amazing. Sora gets to hang out with Grandpa and Grandma, and I was actually never able to meet my mom's father. He passed 2 weeks before I was born, so it's a real blessing to have grandparents be around their kids.
You remember your mom's mom, right?
Oh yeah, Grandma Rachel. Grandma Rachel, she's quite a powerful woman. She was as persnickety as any person I've ever met. Powerhouse. She lived through 2 husbands and the Depression, and was an amazing woman. Actually, was quite a powerful, interesting gal. I always looked up to her, even though I could barely be around her because she always put me to task. She'd always call me Scotty, her other nephew, grandson, and she said, "Scotty, go sweep the front lawn. Go mow this. Go." I'd be like, "What do you mean? I'm on vacation. What do you?" Yes, I'm not Scotty. Quit making me work. But Grandma always got us to do certain jobs, and we, in the end, we really respected her for that because that's all. That's the stuff that we all need to do a little bit more of, as we know. I do remember the fireflies back at her house, and those were always a favorite thing for us to do back in New York. And she always loved to just watch us run around and catch fireflies around New York, upstate New York.
Where was it? What was the name of the town?
Canisteo, New York. It's a small, I read up on it recently, and it was a town for all the wayward Indians and I believe Civil War veterans who were kind of the bad boys. So it was kind of the crusties were all thrown to Canisteo. And of course the Canisteo Indians are where that name came from, but it was a melting pot for kind of not the ne'er-do-wells, but in the end it was the history of Canisteo is quite fascinating.
You come from a history of ne'er-do-wells?
Ne'er-do-wells, yeah, on both sides, the Millers and the Pecks.
Yeah, that's true. That's great. So that kind of explains a lot.
A lot about, yes.
So do you remember at all your grandparents on your dad's side? How old were you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Grandpa Peck and Grandma were close to us. Dad and Mom made sure that we got close to them, even though Dad and his dad had a bit of a tumultuous relationship. But Dad was able to move on and keep the grandkids with Grandpa and Grandma, and the memories of them were really powerful. I remember Grandma, the one thing she'd always say was, she'd see you, and the first thing she'd say was, "Bless your little heart." And she'd grab you, and she had a little mustache, and she'd kiss you, and you'd always say, "Ooh, that was a grandma kiss." But now I definitely miss those grandma kisses. And then Grandpa, the first thing he would do would grab you by the neck and then give you a Indian,
Did he shake your hand too?
Oh, well, no, he'd break your hand. Exactly. He wouldn't shake your hand. And then he would give...
That handshake was...
Then he'd give your beard, and then he'd give you one of those. And then the last thing he would do would give you a rope burn. So when you got near Grandpa, you definitely got a little bit of pain and suffering.
And there at the end, he kind of had that beard. He looked a little like Colonel Sanders.
Colonel Sanders, we called him Colonel Sanders, and he loved to crack walnuts at our house. And he was a really neat person.
I remember the walnut cracking. Do you remember the peanut butter fudge?
Oh yeah. But not as much as the cracking of the walnuts. That was a big thing.
Well, thank you. Anything else you'd like to add?
I'm just thankful that we were able to get everybody here and get together and reattach the cousins and the nephews and the grandpas and the grandmas and the aunts and uncles and all of us moms and dads together to reconnect the family. It's a great thing to have happened. So I'm really thankful.
You know how it is.
Yeah, you can. Mom completely changed the name. I just say it. I always thought I was supposed to. Yeah.
What's that you're eating? Oh, that's a peach.
Never.
So how you been doing?
Good.
Did you get a little sick the first night? What do you think caused it?
I think I just ate too much spaghetti.
It was all the spaghetti? You think maybe the cook just made bad spaghetti? I think that might have been it. Yeah. Yeah, I think the health inspector better check out
Yeah.
his health practices. So what's your name?
Andrew.
And tell me who your parents are, Andrew.
My mom is Ann Peck, and my dad is David Peck.
Right. And do you have some grandparents that have been here today too?
Yes, my grandma Susie right over there.
Right.
And my Grandpa Russ.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and my brother Sawyer.
Sawyer's here too. In fact, I think he's right behind us.
Yeah.
Is he making faces? No, he's not. Let's see where he is. There he is. And so tell me about...
yeah, not this exact one, but
tell me about your grandpa.
Lighthouse, Cage's Appointment.
Describe him a little bit.
He's really nice. He hosts his family reunion at our house, and that's really nice. And he's in really good shape for his age.
How old is he?
80.
80. Does that seem pretty old, or is that pretty young?
Old.
Old? Call it old? How about your grandma? What you can tell me about her?
She's really nice. I haven't seen her that lately, but she's so nice. We always make really nice stuff, and we go. She makes really good desserts, and we make apple pie and stuff. And it's really good. Really nice.
What else do you like to do with her?
We go to her house and do art projects and hang out, and she hosts dinner a lot. So.
Does she like to do art herself?
She's an artist.
You play baseball. Okay, right. I knew that.
She pretty good? Have you seen some of her artwork?
Yeah, she's really, really good.
Right. And how about your mom? What can you tell me about her?
My mom, she's really nice. She tends to get a little moody sometimes, but when she's in a good mood, she's really, really nice.
Which is most of the time, right? Good. And how about your dad? How could you describe him?
Well, when he's driving, he's really mad, but when he's not driving, he's really fun.
Oh, what gets him mad about driving?
Just
the people on the road or the kids in the car?
Both.
Oh, a little of both? So where do you like to sit in the car when?
I like to sit, I usually like to sit in the front, the shotgun. Yeah, I usually sit in the back though.
And do you give your dad advice on how to drive?
No.
Would he take it, do you think? Would he listen to you?
What?
Would he listen to you if you told him how to drive?
No.
And tell me about your brother. How would you describe Sawyer?
Well, he gets really temperamental sometimes. So if you beat him at a game or something, he just punches you and tackles you.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And he's mean.
How about your cousin Ben here? How would you describe him?
He's sporty and. Oh, I got magic tape. See this? There's a seed inside it. I'm gonna swallow it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I swallowed it. Ta-da.
Whoa. Did he actually swallow it? Okay,
Yeah,
now let's see if it'll reappear. Okay. So he sounds like he's very talented too. Right?
Yeah.
Amazing talent. And
maybe disgusting. What?
Okay.
See the seed?
Yeah.
Swallowed it.
You did swallow it. I saw it go down. Nice. Well, I guess that's nice. You know what's going to happen though. You gotta have a cherry tree growing out of your belly button.
And then in the toilet, a cherry tree is gonna grow.
Yep, that's what happens.
Chocolate chip cookies.
Well, there's everyone's gone now. Chocolate chip cookies.